Okay, here we are. It is our Tuesday show. You know, Blake, just after you and I wrap up 1 o'clock, I get about an hour's break, and then I do my Patreon show over on my music channel. You know, I got me a
Yeah.
beautiful stereo. I had my son over visiting over the weekend, and he was able to hear the system for the first time, and it was
Nice.
pretty fun watching his reaction to it. It was absolutely spectacular sound. But we got a lot to go through. A lot of news is breaking. Folks, you should have seen Blake and I behind scenes. We were punching each other. We were MAGA is divided. No, I mean, it's a great topic, right? I mean, all these points. You know, I guess the old adage is they seek to divide, divide and conquer strategy. So what's come out in people like Harry Sissons, and Harry got his ass booted from the DNC because he did some some illegal wackaloping. Okay, now I'm just going to mute and talk to the boss. Okay, I'm just dealing with technical issues with the boss. That's the wife. That's the producer of a TV show. We got producer Blake.
Call her Mrs. Producer.
Yeah. So what we got was there's this whole controversy with Tucker and stuff. So I'll share kind of the comments. Trump had some negative comments about Tucker Carlson. Seems to be a knee-jerk response to some story coming out of the Atlantic. Of course, we know they're good for nothing. I'll just make this all go big. Donald Trump, Daily News, Breaking Daily, no affiliation, real Donald Trump, turn on, okay, blah, blah, blah. What's the story, Morning Glory? Oh, those are just People channel. Okay. President Trump body slams Tucker Carlson in an interview with the Atlantic. Okay, we know the far left Atlantic. They're no good for anybody. Yeah, it was a direct response to a question about Tucker. Well, concerning I'm the one that developed, quote, America First, make America great again, America first, all in for America. And considering the term wasn't used until I came along, I think the one that decides that. For those people, they say they want peace. You can't have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon, a position I fully agree with. So for all of those wonderful people who don't want to do anything about Iran having a nuclear weapon, any peace. President Trump does not take shit from Tucker Carlson. I love this unapologetic Trump fighting for America against these foreign agents. Here's Trump with Keir Starmer, and we're going to talk about the grooming gangs to the extent we're able to on this program. But we're, very coded and caged language. But suffice to say, some good things are happening out of a truly horrible situation. We'll make this big. We'll play it. We'll see how we get on.
Tucker Carlson criticizing you, saying that you were complicit in the war.
I don't know what Tucker Carlson is saying. Let him go get a television network and say it so that people listen.
And quickly, have you spoken to Zelensky before your bylaws?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Japan?
A lot of them.
Okay, so Trump says, well, go get a regular network because he got fired from Fox. Fox is controlled opposition as far as I'm concerned. So that's no great loss. And Tucker, one of the big, I love Tucker too. I think he's funny. I don't like his laugh too much, Blake, full disclosure. His laugh is kind of weird. Yeah, what he's doing, that's a good Tucker. So that's kind of crazy. But I think it's another mountain of a molehill. Yeah. There's no there really. It's just Trump being irritated. And if Tucker's saying Trump's complicit in any issue or dealings with Iran, no one knows what Trump is doing. Trump knows what he's doing, but no one else does. He plays his card close to his chest. And one of the great quotes came out of our beloved feline leader, influencer over on the X platform, Cat Turd. Just love Cat Turd. Never thought I'd hear myself say that, Blake. I love Cat Turd.
Over and over.
Over and over. I just love Cat Turd. And he's there, and Cat Turd says basically, listen, all these idiots freaking out. Is Trump got you freaked out? You freaked out of what's going on with Iran, and you don't know what's going on? How do you think Iran feels right now? If you don't know what Trump's doing, what do you think Iran's thinking? Yeah. Like, what the hell is going on? Of course, Trump with the infamous tweet saying, clear the streets, get the hell out of Tehran. So But it doesn't mean America's going to go punch him in the teeth. But here's what happened. There was a 60-day moratorium, and Trump was going like he's got Israel like a big pit bull on the leash, pulling on Israel. He was going, want to go after Iran? Stop it, Brutus! So they're getting crazy. Trump's yanking back on him. He's yanking back on Israel. Day 61, Trump pulled back. He tried to make a deal. He says, Iran, you got 60 days to come make a deal. I guess you're not taking this seriously. Okay. Pitbull, we're going to take you off your leash. And then the Pitbull went after him and, bombed the shit out of Tehran. And right now, Iran is in absolute disarray. They're talking, Israel wants regime change over there. That never seems to work out well for anybody. No. Because they had the old Shah of Iran. Remember him, 1975. The Shah. Then he had to get out of Dodge. They liked him because he kind of kept the mullahs on a leash and everything. Everything was kind of working with Iran. Then they got in the Ayatollah, and I remember who was it? Mike Rogers. Or we're going over talking to the Shah. Your Eminence, please, I don't want to offend you, but, you're a rat bastard. Please. It was just crazy. So, Blake, what are your thoughts on the quarrel with Tucker and Trumpy Bear? And
well, I mean, as we were talking off screen before, I got my steak up over my eye where you got a good one. But I think when I watched the conversation with Steve Bannon and Tucker yesterday, I didn't hear anything negative. So it does make sense. If it came from the Atlantic, that would skew the opinion greatly or bigly. And I think that's a part of it. I mean, there is a danger that the war hawks, neocons, are still trying to control the process. And I think as long as everybody's keeping an eye on those guys, because they'll have a war everywhere. They're all about regime change and chaos, because everywhere they go, there's nothing but chaos, and it never stabilizes. There is no stabilized Syria right now. There is no stabilized Iraq. There's still no stable. Like, sure, they were able to put ISIS down. They were able to kind of slow down their onslaught, but behind the scenes, that's still happening underground.
Yeah.
And I think it just everywhere these guys touch. Libya was a disaster. They tried to do it in Egypt. Look at Egypt. I mean, what a fantastic scene this past weekend, watching all these wild far left lunatics trying to break into Gaza through Egypt, and they are being brutalized by the locals.
Wow.
Getting kicked out of there. Like, there's a dose of these far left loons here in the West going there going, we're going to do our thing there as we did here in San Francisco.
Can you do that? Can you do leftists or left protesters Egypt? Just go protesters Egypt. Leftists, just left protester Egypt. Do that one. Oh, sorry, Blake. Go on.
But back to Iran. I mean, there was a very good point I read. They've been banging on the drum that Iran's had a nuke since 1985. 1984. Sorry, 1984 was the first news story that came out that Iran was minutes away of having a nuke.
Yeah.
And this has been the ongoing war drum for a long time to take out Iran. Now, Iran, we know, is a nasty state that needs to be controlled. But I mean, I guess the question I think MAGA will be asking is like, listen, we want to get out of these wars. We are done going into endless wars. It didn't work in Afghanistan. It didn't work in Iraq. You got us to take over Iraq. We supported you initially, but in the end, we found out you lied to us. Like, there was no weapons of mass destruction. That was absolute bullshit. And here you are. And I think that's why people are rattled. They're like, okay, Trump, we supported you, but not to become another invading army to take over another country, that we're going to have endless wars and sectarian violence and having our boys die boys and girls dying over there for no reason for a decade. Because quite frankly, Iran needs a regime change, but it's got to come from Iran. It can't come from outside. As soon as the West invades, it rallies up all the martyr nut bars. They need to have a revolution that brings them back to normality.
Yeah.
But I think that's the concern, that we're going to go into another endless war. And I think that is a legitimate concern. I know Israel has a very legitimate beef that Iran funds all the activities around them, from the terrorists, Hamas groups in Gaza and the West Bank, and over in Lebanon with Hezbollah. They're great at funding chaos within Israel. So I think Israel has always had a correct beef with Iran. So, but I mean, at what point? I think strength through power. I think maybe if Trump starts doing his Rocket Man chats to the leadership of Iran, and just like he did with North Korea. Remember, they thought we were going to get into the leftist media. Went berserk in his first term, thought he was going to lead us into a nuclear war with North Korea, and it didn't happen. So
no, he's the president of peace. And the thing is he hasn't done, nothing's happened yet. And I heard one comment made on X that not from what somebody who was State Department representative, they said nothing's going to happen until you start killing an American. If you kill an American, then things change. I believe it could have been Trump himself. You kill an American, then it's going to be a different thing. But you're playing with fire right now, Iran. It's this kind of talk. And Trump's a kind of guy with a big stick. The left. I didn't know what the hell these leftists come in on and watch our show, Blake. And they're coming in talking taco. And it's like Trump chickens out or something is what it means. And he didn't. He waited. He gave them their 60 days, the 61st day. The restraints, the blocks were pulled. And Israel went in, and they went in hard, and they've crippled. And some of the analysis that's going into Iran is that they hit Israel with 300 missiles on the first day, cruise missile combination, cruise missiles, drones, all sorts of shit flying into Israel. Tel Aviv taking the big hits. Golden Dome, or the Iron Dome, doing a lot of good stuff. We get the golden, Israel gets the iron, America first, praise God. But anyway, the whole thing is that then the second day they were down to 100 missiles were launched, and then they were down to like 50 missiles. They don't have the resources. Meanwhile, Israel's all over targeting not just Tehran, but strategically everywhere, and they've already depleted. They're saying about a third. They've got air supremacy, and if anybody doesn't remember the Iraq War and previous war scenarios where you've got air superiority, that's when it's still a contest. They can launch shite up in the air, but you've got more than they do, and you've got air superiority. But air supremacy is when you can fly around like you're, in your Cessna if you wanted to, and nobody's going to touch you. This, you can go where you want, when you want, how you want, at your complete leisure, without fear of any interference. And this
is kind of like Iraq when Saddam Hussein was firing his Scuds.
I mean, they had nothing, right? Punch and block in the wind. Okay, Sue, have you got the thing with the kids acting up? All right, here we go.
In Egypt. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Egypt. So I just started laughing. Egyptians are basically throwing out Western leftists who showed up to march to Gaza. So they're
doing their little sit-in.
So they aren't putting up with this. It's just absolutely hilarious. So
they're getting hit with a hat. Look at the guy with the hat.
we had like 50 Canadians over there apparently, and they took all their passports, and I was just laughing. My favorite line out of the whole thing, some guy goes, "Look, the little children are in there with their little whips. The children got their tiny whips." And I just started laughing. I sat there, I go, little children, tiny whips, bashing these leftists, but they're lunatics because they think what they can get away with over here with the rights and the lame governments, and compromised communist officials that we got over here, that they figure they can just get away with it. And when they get over there, of course, they find they aren't playing by the same rules.
The old fuck around and find out.
It really is. It really is all that. A lot of stories going on, Blake. I know you've grabbed a few. This is a mild story. Can you get the trans bus driver? Did you hear about the trans?
Oh, yeah. dressed up as a Japanese schoolgirl.
Yeah, it's not even. I don't even believe Japanese schoolgirls dress like
Well,
this.
I thought that's what I saw. They said that's what he was dressed like.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's do the math ourselves on this. Now, full disclosure, I'm a fun-loving tranny myself, but report: Ontario School Board removes male bus driver wearing a pink skirt. I don't know what you want to call that. Do we have more? There's the legs. Let's keep going down. Beautiful bowling shoe. I love the bowling shoes where but you have to clean them before you wear somebody else. A little belly button there. You can see that's quite cute. The navel and the little, it's like Sailor Moon on some sort of testosterone blocker. I'm not quite sure.
No, maybe it's Katy Perry.
It's got that whole K-bait. But apparently this guy went to school, to drive the school bus. Can you imagine? You bring your little 5-year-old there. Okay, it's time to go to kindergarten. And apparently the bus driver called the bus the Lolita Express. Now, of course, Lolita, and this gives me my great opportunity, Blake, you're just going to love this, for me to do my James Mason. Lolita, I must paint your toenails. Please let me put varnish on your toenails. Lolita, I desire you. And so anyway, it's a Lolita Express. Of course, wasn't it Epstein Island, the Lolita Express? So they go there off to Prince Andrew and all that stuff. Crazy, allegedly. And it's just, so we got this guy. I think it's nuts. I think, listen, if you want to be all fruity tooty and have some fun and dress up and you're a little Sailor Moon type creature or whatever the fuck you are, that's fine. But do it on your own nickel. Don't do it in your official capacity as, hey, I'm the school bus driver and look what we go. It's not like Halloween. Maybe it would be a little different if it was Halloween and the guy dressed up like Raggedy Ann for a bit of a lark. But when you're trying to do your fetishizing and exposing little kids to it, it's a bit much. And the school board, in my opinion, made the right decision firing the guy. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, I concur. I mean, I don't care what people want to do in their own private capacity and what they do in their own time. But when you're at work, especially with children, that's not appropriate to be doing it there. Yeah. It's just like that teacher back in Ontario a couple years ago. What they call her Busty something anyway.
R.S.T. Charlson. I'm not sure the last name, but she had the large super prosthetic bosom, and it's a guy totally. And the guy, what was interesting about him, he would be in and out of costume.
Yeah, in costume at school, out when he was out in his private capacity.
Yeah.
So some people thought he was making it up just because he was just being an antagonist to the.
Well, no, he wasn't though. He was more of a kind of a leftist. He was a little crazy. And he was out there allegedly crazy. And he's out there I'm sure it impeded his golf swing. You have those,
wasn't he a shop teacher too? What happens if he could have got stuck in the lathe?
Yeah. Okay. Now, if you got little ones watching this show, please get them the hell out of this. What the hell are they here for anyway? But yeah, here we go.
There he is.
Holy shit. Look at those powerful nipples. There he is in his daily disguise as mild-mannered prosthetic Z cup. I've never heard of the Z cups. Prosthetic breasts, only wears them while teaching the children, expose the kids. It's just absolutely nuts. And then outside of school is just walking around in his dungarees. You Hardy Boy fans will remember dungarees.
Dungarees.
Yeah, dungarees, your old jeans. So it's kind of nuts, right? I mean, that's crazy. Apparently, that individual got fired too. Eventually, do you have any follow up? I don't know what the hell happened.
I don't know. For a long time, the school board was protecting him.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
This next item we can't even really talk about. One of the things verboten on YouTube is anything dealing with election integrity and stuff. You can't even. Yeah. So I'm just going to drop a link. Can you just drop the link? We're not going to do it.
Oh, Kash Patel.
Patel. All we're going to say is the FBI has been digging into some stuff. And if we wait long enough, it's, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. If we wait long enough, it's like our ship finally comes in.
Yeah.
Oh, Father, I want to sing. And then Lancelot comes to rescue you.
That's right.
Eventually, you'll get rescued. ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to play anything for this or read anything about it. I just say you got to read this. Big development on that. And I mean, we can talk around it.
Well, it had to do with Chinese influence and foreign influence. I think that's
Yeah.
a big part of it. And I think that's going to cross the border well into Canada, too. This is a North America wide issue that is affecting both countries.
It really the hell is. And so that, I mean, that is really, really big news. But I'm going to show, this is kind of interesting. Can you show the link up, the libs of TikTok, China 2 fake news, I call it, right now. That one I'm going to show.
Yeah.
This one I will read because it's just a person's opinion about something. But this is really interesting here. And it just shows you the general state of things. Hi, MSNBC. When will you retract this and issue Trump an apology? Opinion Trump's lie about Chinese election interference is debunked. Its effects still linger from NBC. China did not work to get Biden elected, no matter what Trump says. And I'm just going to say, you got to read the article because maybe, just maybe, Trump was right about everything.
Let's go back to 2016 and let's remember who they said were election interference was Russia.
Yeah, Russia was the big
Russia. Right?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of almost like a bait and switch kind of thing. Look over here, don't look here, look here.
Yeah.
That old playbook. But really interesting that these, and it wasn't just MSNBC. That story went out. ABC's basically said verbatim. We've all seen, Blake, you and I have shown even on this program, where the talking points get out to the media and they're replicated from station to station to station, all echoing, all mimicking the same verbiage, the same talking point. And one of those was Trump's totally wrong. Then we saw it with the Hunter Biden laptop situation. Oh no, it's all Russian disinformation. We later learned that wasn't the case. In fact, there was a big lie about all that. The Dems love talking their big lie. Here's a sad note. Amy Coney Barrett, can you grab that link, Sue? Amy Coney. And again, I want to say thanks to Sue. Blake and I are very fortunate to have Sue doing the heavy lifting here to bring in these clips for us, and we can just sit there and laugh at them. This one's sad, but this is kind of referencing what Trump talked about with the legal society, the law society. He learned after the fact about the Law Society and the Bar Association. Pam Bondi had strong words for them. But this one came across the platform today, and I thought BC Drano, great account. DC Drano, please subscribe if you're not. It's a great account. The data is out, and it looks like MAGA was right about Justice Amy Coney Barrett. She's a backstabber to the people who appointed her. The records show that she agreed with liberal justices Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan 82% of the time during her second term. She's up 39% in her first term. She's also the conservative least likely to support Trump in cases that involve the president himself. What an ungrateful, but I don't care about ungrateful ivory tower weakling. What I care about is the fact that Trump got duped. And he as much came out and said so. And somebody says, I trusted these people. I came in, I had a lot of people that with conservative labels on them said, she's a good pick, get her. We highly recommend her, Mr. President. He went in, he said, I had nothing, I had no obfuscation. I'm just wearing my heart on my sleeve. I come out honestly, sincerely. I need a little help here because I don't know all the players. I need a good judge, somebody that's going to uphold the Constitution. And they duped him. The rhinos duped him, and they put in a rhino type judge. So very sad.
Another Roberts, basically.
Justice Roberts. Now, Justice Roberts, of course, he was appointed under Bush, so it's a different kind of situation. Coney Barrett was appointed by Donald John Trump. So sadder but wiser school of learning. Blake, do you think the president's learned anything from his first term into the second? Are we seeing any evidence of that?
Well, yeah, he's moving at lightning speed. I mean, that the last time he got in there, and I've heard him talk about it in interviews, that Yeah, I mean, you walk into a place, you don't know hardly any of these people, who they are. Your first term is figuring out all the mechanisms. I mean, it's a lot bigger than running a corporation. There's just so many pieces to it. But yeah, I think he learned hard. I think this time he's much more focused, laser focused.
Yeah.
And anyways, I think he's doing what he needs to do to get these people who should be in the right roles much better. I think he's probably also learned also to keep your friends close, but your enemies even closer. So he can keep a sharp eye on who's doing what. Because I think some of those people expose those rhinos that are working in the background. Let's just call them for what they are. They're the neocon crowd, the uniparty. So I think he's doing a good job so far, as best as he can. There's going to be errors. You can't, there's no great baseball player who could bat 1,000. You can't. It's impossible. You can't be perfect. So, outside of the return of Jesus Christ, there's nobody's going to be able to be perfect, but he's doing as best as he can. I think he's a lot sharper, as he came from the school of sadder but wiser of the first term.
I think so too, Blake. Absolutely right. I concur right across the board with you. Here's one I've picked up. I thought this was interesting. It says everything that I've said for a very long time. This is from Canada's Canadian television network, CTV News.
Yeah.
U.S. news consumers are turning to podcaster Joe Rogan and away from traditional sources. Worst kept secret in Hollywood, but what CTV doesn't recognize is Canadian viewers are turning away from them and are watching Joe Rogan more than CTV News. I mean, full disclosure for both Blake and myself, I'm kind of blank paper here to let you know what open book to tell you where I get my news from. Blake, who's your number one news source? Who are your news sources?
Pretty much everybody that I follow on X now. So mainly alternative media sources now. I don't even know. I've got so many. It's funny is when I start watching certain ones. I like Viva Frey. He's really good commentator.
Tell the kids about him. Who's Viva Frey? Tell him, give him a context for him.
Yeah, well, he's a Canadian living in Florida. He's left Canada. He's a lawyer by trade.
Yeah.
So he's a very intelligent person. And I think he makes some really good commentary on ongoing points. I really like him.
Yeah.
I like Rebel News here in Canada. I watch them. Sometimes they get a little too campy for me, into the weeds a little bit, rather than the big issue battle.
I tracked down a smaller issue, and they beat a lot of a smaller issue, like ostrich farms or whatever. But but they did good reporting on that. It's still an important issue, but there's other stories that are really.
Oh, and there's so many. There's Frank Vaughn. There's great commentators, and he's a Canadian guy out of Saskatchewan, originally from Ontario. Of course, Rachel's Ghost. Gotta follow. I'll watch just about anybody on there that gives a different viewpoint, from everything from InfoWars to GB News out of Great Britain. Those guys are great. I think they're really good to watch and get information from that perspective. I do have a comment on CTV News' story there.
Yeah, go.
And again, I don't trust them. They are a state broadcaster, even though technically they are private. They follow the same type of storyline as the CBC. They are a pro-government apparatus that protects the Liberal Party, or
they're bought and paid for, right?
Yeah, they're bought and paid for. They're part of the globalist cartel of opinions. Let's just say their opinion is very, very globalist.
Yeah,
WEF to the core. But here's the thing: why would they be presenting that story in Canada? You got to watch out for their double meaning in this. They're trying to scare their elbows up crowd into this evils of free speech. Understand that Mark Carney, and even before that, Trudeau, they've been working on legislation called the Harms Act, where they want to prevent access to certain platforms in Canada. They want to, one of them is X. They're wanting to turn off access to X. They're saying they're not. Funny is, Mark Carney's $1 trillion Brookfield invested money into X, gave Elon money for that. But the fact is that there is this attempt now to shut down free speech and free speech points of view that you can pick up online. So this, I'd be very cautious. This is those trial balloon stories to start building up. Oh, we can't have the Joe Rogans being more popular than us because they are misinformation agents. This is the crap that's still going on in Canada. We have not advanced to the level of rebellion to the media we've seen in the US, where essentially, as we've seen in the White House press, they allow these alternative news stories to be in the press gallery.
Yeah, I love that.
Rebel News had to go to court to get Carney to change his mind for allowing Rebel News to be at the at the G7.
They've had to go 4 times, and now Ezra Levant, who's the brains or whatever, the main figure behind Rebel News, says that the one of the police departments, I think it might have been the Ottawa PD, Calgary. Was it Calgary PD? Yeah. Basically blocked him, and he said, "You can't block me. It's against because I'm a media." We're official. We went to the Supreme Court and won there. You got to give us access or I'm going to sue your ass. And he said, you got a week to fix this or I'm going to sue you. He'll win too. Sue's got a link for us here, Blake. Let's take a look what she's got. Concerned citizen. Carney is demanding Art Carney. Hey, Rilla, watch this. Carney is demanding power to suspend all federal laws. What? Wake up, Canada. This bill will provide Carney with absolute power and control, can allow him unilateral control as well as suspending federal laws at his discretion. Where the hell's the outrage? Well, I think the outrage is that who the fuck knows what the hell these people are going. They don't name their bills big, beautiful bills. They name them like C-21, B2, C-30.
Omnibuses with 50,000 different items in it.
Nobody knows what the hell these things are. Yeah. They just see something. What is that? How could a C-21 ever hurt me? And then you find it later. Yeah.
Well, and what backs this up is that it seems that David Eby in British Columbia seems to be the guy they use as a template to take federally on everything from decriminalizing hard drugs and open shooting galleries paid for and funded by the government started with Eby and his gang in BC. Well, Eby brought in Bill 7, which was almost defeated. It was broken up into a number of other bills 12, 14, and 15 in BC. Which essentially what everybody was screaming in British Columbia was his ability to overrule legislative rights of the legislature. That means laws get passed there. It has to go through the vetting of Parliament before it can become law and acted on. But the problem is they created these bills under quote unquote extraordinary circumstances, emergencies, Trump tariffs, that the cabinet can now make adjustments to laws without taking it to legislatures, and they have pushed that through, barely surviving a vote, even with their own party in BC. And what does the Liberals do? Well, let's just cookie cutter what Eby's doing. Eby's like their guy to go test all this crap out. And sorry, British Columbia, you are a failure of a province right now. If you don't change, you're going to be a Marxist state, a Cuba of the West Coast, if you don't change now. But that's the concern. They copy everything. They're going after property rights. They're going after mineral rights. It's everything. They're going after everything. You will own nothing and be happy. Eby is their guy to trailblaze, to trial balloon everything first before they take it.
And you and me, we're the canaries in the mine, in the coal mine.
There.
And really, you more than me, and so much that you deal in real estate, you deal in with mining, licensing, and rights of access, all this sort of thing. So you're feeling the hot breath of an overarching government practically every single day. Sue's got another clip for us here. The NDP are canceling thousands of vacation rentals across British Columbia, putting local economies at risk this summer. David Eby and his housing minister must press pause on their failed registration system before further damage is done. Let's hear the person talk about this, and we'll see what they got.
Hi, I'm Rosalind Bird, MLA for Prince George Valemount. Across British Columbia, thousands of vacation bookings are being cancelled. Weddings, family reunions, long-awaited getaways, vanishing overnight because the BC NDP government failed to deliver a basic registration system. Let's be clear, this isn't just about short-term rental owners. This is about small-town economics. It's about families who can't afford a $500 a night hotel room. And it's about local businesses, restaurants, shops, tour guides, losing a summer's worth of income. I've spoken with an operator in our community who did everything right, fully registered, fully booked, and then, without warning, Booking.com canceled every single reservation because of issues with the provincial system. No helpline, no grace period, just gone.
Okay, so this is being torpedoed or sabotaged by the British Columbia government. Leland Finstag, we love the United States of America. Blake and I are big fans of the U.S., and we love that gorgeous flag, Stars and Stripes forever. We love it. Blake, Rachel, and Scuzzy, Leland Finstag. Leland, welcome aboard. Hey, folks, with Leland jumping in, take advantage of the opportunity. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new around here. New channel. We're just getting out there. A couple more voices and a chorus of voices dealing with various topics in the world today. But Blake, this is something you know intimately about, these rentals, buildings, all this stuff. Tell me.
I've been working in this industry for 21 years, fully licensed and legal to operate managing vacation homes. Vacation homes have been marketed since the freaking gold rush. That's how long they've been in BC. So all this BS that the government's been spinning, telling people that people have been doing short-term rentals is a relatively new thing since the rise of Airbnb, that is BS. As I said, people have rented rooms in their houses, rented houses furnished during the gold rush. They've done it all throughout the 1930s and all the way up. There's always been a need for it. But the point is that this is all part of that WEF plan. You'll own nothing and be happy. This is one of the first things I think we ever talked about on the show was this alliance, this evil alliance between Union Pension Fund investments with the large trillion-dollar asset manager companies like Mark Carney's Brookfield, and you've got BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street, and they have billions and billions invested into hotel real estate. Not just residential real estate. They want to dominate and control it all. So essentially another attack on mom and pops. Most people who own a vacation home aren't speculators that they're demonizing in the public, but they're also demonizing mom and pop landlords. Somebody who has a suite in their house or has a second property they rent out. They go after them saying that they're greedy landlords. They should be held back and rent controlled and all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, not a word about the big institutional operators that are run by the big companies like BlackRock and Vanguard and all those gangs, because the unions who control the NDP are funding it with their union pension funds. It's like, where's Jimmy Hoffa, folks? Because it's the same thing. These corrupt thugs are driving small people out from ownership of real estate, deciding what they want to do just to favor a huge conglomerate monopoly of hotels. The hotels are building large-scale, fully suited condo hotels, they're calling them. They're basically condos, not building a single home for one person. And they're using these kinds of lies against individual people all across the province. And then, of course, the federal government copied it. They created the UHT tax. BC created the speculation tax, attacking people, taxing their properties after tax income on something they already own that you have to pay in addition to property tax and all this stuff. So they've gone full tilt. This is a WF effort to drive people out of their homes so that they have to be forced to move into something smaller. So it's not just about short-term rentals, folks. It was a lie with bullshit information that the BC Hotel Association spun in the background. They put it in a media campaign. 1 month, they met in secret with the government. The government plotted this all out. This was all pre-planned. This was not some kind of, oh, we got to deal with this situation. It was an emergency crisis. It wasn't. And now we're seeing it, the effects of it. It's driving our tourism economy down. Places are empty. People are saying they're saying 50% of businesses in downtown Victoria are going to close, not just because of this alone, but also because of rampant drug crime is out of control in the city. So yeah, it's a big issue. Could be its own show in itself, is just talking about how these guys have got their tentacles into every aspect of people's lives. So watch out. BC is a staging ground where they are practicing everything they want to do on the rest of the world.
Great comment here from Pat's Radio. Canadian voters are self-righteous dimwits with the elbows up kind of, I think, apathetic losers. They'll have to experience the social, quote, rock bottom before they wake up to the reality that they are, in fact, being manipulated. It is maddening. Take comfort in the fact, Pat, and it is interesting because I'm on X platform a lot. I get a lot of my news there directly from the source. So I want to know what Trump's saying. Truth Social. You want to listen from Donald Trump himself. Tucker Carlson's got an opinion. I don't want somebody talking for Tucker. I want to hear Tucker say it. Hillary Clinton, you want to say something? You're free to mention it there. We'll listen to what you have to say. We may not agree, but we'll listen to you.
Yeah.
So take comfort in the fact that a lot of this disinformation, at least being disseminated into the population, is coming through these dying legacy media outlets. They are losing their impact on, it's generational. Some of the protests that went over with the No Kings protests in the United States, Trump is the king, no kings. And the thing there is that people were, the memes were going out, hey, what do you notice about the crowd here? And they were all like 65 and older. There were all these oldsters out there because the young people aren't getting their news from the legacy media, the dying legacy media. And that's why CTV News can come up with a headline that I just showed you about 10 minutes ago saying most Americans are now getting their news from Joe Rogan as opposed to getting it through legacy media, MSNBC, ABC, CBS. All those are going the way of the dodo bird, and it can't happen soon enough. The market is determining the direction. And the beautiful thing about truth, you got to wait. It takes a long time for the truth to surface. It can bury, you can suppress, you can obfuscate, but eventually it shows up and the body floats out from the bottom of the lake, and you got yourself the evidence that you need to put somebody away. This is happening, I think, with the news dealing with China and Kash Patel's announcement. That's a fantastic thing. And a big story right now. Sue, can you grab the UK grooming thing? Now, this is a story that the Conservative government, the Labour government, and even when they were in opposition, they did everything in their power to suppress. And thank God,
there's no link.
I dropped it in the private chat. It's the very last one in there, and it's called grooming.
Oh, sorry.
Samantha Taghoy, I think status. And so I'm going to play. There's a clip here we'll play, so, but we'll read the preamble on it all. It's quite interesting. It's quite telling. Suffice to say that Tommy Robinson was out there saying all this shit. They said, you're lying, you're a racist, you're wrong. And now, after decades, it's finally come out that, okay, they had an inquiry. The report is in, and it basically validates all the complaints that people on the right of the political spectrum had been saying. Jess Phillips, who's a Labour MP, voted against a national inquiry into grooming gangs. She ignored Oldham Council. Of course, we love Oldham here through our friend Rob Walker, who is born and raised in Oldham. That's a suburb of Manchester, folks. Request to meet and refused their calls for an inquiry. Jess Phillips watered down the government's local inquiries until they were scrapped altogether. So, yeah, she did, because the question is, hey, did you do anything? She goes, oh, not me. I never turned a blind eye. Jess Phillips, MP, safeguarding minister on criticisms that politicians buried their heads in the sand over Grimmick Gags. And you make
And Banner's Casey says today, it is not racist to want to examine the ethnicity of offenders.
Of course not.
You say absolutely right.
Of course not. Well, I didn't think it was in forced marriage. I didn't think in moving forward on forced marriage. I didn't think it was racist in moving forward on female genital mutilation. I didn't think it was racist.
So sorry, when people say you and others in Labour, in the Labour Party, in opposition and in government, have stuck your head in the sand about this.
Well, I mean, that people can. There are undoubtedly people who have. I'm not going to, and Louise Casey finds that, and there is plenty of anecdote, for example, around Anne Cryer, a Labour MP who spoke up about this, being told to keep it quiet by people, you know, from within the Labour Party.
And Maggie Oliver herself, a whistleblower, says Labour and the Tories have both turned a blind eye.
Maggie Oliver is absolutely right. When Sarah Champion came out and spoke about it at the time, I completely and utterly supported her. So yeah, look, people have turned a blind eye. There's no two. I'm not denying that.
Including you?
Absolutely not me. I have never.
Okay, and she's bullshitting there because the evidence is out, and she was amazed. The Oldham Council asked her for help. She buried, said, "You're not getting it. You're on your own. Do the best you can, but we're not freaking going to look into this sort of thing." Again, it's a case where it seems the truth is no longer able to be suppressed, and the truth of all this is coming out, and statistics are now available, and they're being disseminated about the identity. It's something like the one where I won't mention the population. I'm not going to do it here on YouTube. Suffice to say that one ethnic minority that represents something like 3% of the overall population is responsible for 68% of the sex crimes that have been reported. You know, in the United Kingdom. It's absolutely horrendous. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to see that these labor ministers that were culpable, that, and she even says it right there. It's a remarkable comment that they suppressed it. They knowingly, willingly suppressed the information. She goes, and did you suppress? Goes the announcer. Oh, not me. But my fellow politicians, they did it both on the Conservative and Labor. So I don't know, Blake, anything to add to what you're seeing there?
I don't understand it. It's here as well. It's everywhere in the Western world. This let's bury our heads in the sand and pretend nothing's happening, and that anybody who questions it is somehow a racist or a homophobe. I mean, what was the numbers? I think they said between 30 and 40 people a day were being arrested by police in the UK for tweets on X. Yeah. I mean, they're more focused going after critics of the government than they are going after actual criminals. That's the same here in Canada. Every time, you see it in the US, this is why there's a push to, make the Western world great again. Because we allow for all this crap. And you have to scratch your head is, what was the purpose to drive in millions and millions of unvetted people into your country from areas that don't share your same cultural values? That goes into the melting pot, learns to become part of your society and partakes in it that way. Instead, drive in everything. And we know of what these third world countries do. And some of them come from very dictatorial governments, just like Cuba used to do. And they would just, every time they wanted to empty their prisons, they would just throw a bunch of Cuban prisoners on boats and send them to America. Yeah, go be free. Right. And I think that's part of the problem. It's just they don't seem to care because they would rather virtue signal that they are, I don't know, enlightened or fake woke. I mean, that's basically where it came from. But they just seem to allow and then go diametrically opposed to who they were even 10 years ago when they would be fighting for women's rights. And yet women are being raped and they couldn't care less because they would rather look to be tolerant of all these different groups, except for one, white male Christians, that they have to be intolerant towards because that's what
you think the fact that it was Keir Starmer's government that did a call for this inquiry, it's almost like there was an arm wrestle going on and it looked like, Tommy Robinson is the face of it. and other people on the right that had real concerns about this, and not just people on the right, not the alt-right, not the extreme right, just mom and pops across the nation. Enough was enough. There's now that arm wrestling thing is going back the other way.
Yeah.
I'm saying that I think, and the whole idea of the posting on the Xbox, I think those draconian measures, along with this, I think they're losing. I think they're losing.
Well, and I think the uniparty, because Britain has a uniparty, just like Canada's uniparty. I think Keir Starmer is just trying to pull a Carney, right? He's going to fake you into believing that, well, I'm kind of conservative too. I have some of those values because I want to hold on to power. And that's Carney. He's in a minority government. He's doing the same thing. And, there's media. And this is what I'm saying. You can't trust the media. They're planting stories like, well, trying to make it look like they're being opposition to Carney, saying, well, maybe he's a secret conservative and all this kind of crap. But the fact is that they're afraid of a changeover of the elite, of getting rid of populist movements from coming up into government and taking power. MAGA in the U.S., whatever we want to call it, even under the Conservative Party. I know you're not a supporter, but even within the ranks of the Conservative Party, they have their own version of that. And I think the Reform Party in the UK is the reason why they're playing the game, that they can play both sides. Don't believe them. They're liars. I think they're all liars. They never intend to do what they say they're going to do, but do what they've done before. Watch that, because that's who they really are. They can't just magically change and say, well, we're going to be tough on crime now. No, we don't believe you. We know you're just trying to deflect votes away from Nigel Farage and his group. I think Farage is the reason why they're doing what they're doing. They couldn't care less about the rest.
I think one of the trends we're hearing, because this story is breaking, it is an absolute disaster for the Labour Party in the UK.
Yeah,
their polling is just going. They're taking it. They're taking a full-on hit because they suppressed it for so long. The optics are just horrific, absolutely horrendous. Dealing with this story. Okay, let's turn back to Canada for a bit.
Got some BC stuff.
Yeah,
the China files.
yeah. They call it mockingly China because of all the influence of China here. But you've got a great article here about the Petula Bridge, which is a famous bridge in Vancouver. And I think Sue's going to bring the link for that for us. Yeah. Have you got the link for that one? It's called the Petula Bridge. Ladies and gentlemen, you can also do your own recognizance, goals of WEF. Always worth reading because it's chilling stuff, quite frankly, what these idiots have planned. Okay, here's the story. I'll make it large, and Blake, you can handle it. Okay, what's going on?
Yeah, so Harbin is a BC Conservative MLA. He's been very active on going after all the corruption within the British Columbia New Democratic Party. Anyways, he goes, I'm hearing serious concerns about the Petula Bridge project using Chinese steel, aka Temu steel, which is substandard material used on the Johnson Street Bridge, which is where I reside. There was an old blue bridge that was torn down, and it was decided to bring in Chinese steel into Victoria to replace it, and that had to be stripped down, and it caused tens of millions of dollars of overruns for a little bridge. And essentially, this is on the heels of the BC Ferries fiasco, where David Eby and his Marxist regime had decided to go elbows down and move all of our shipbuilding for BC Ferries to China and not in British Columbia to hire Canadian labor.
And just on that Johnson Street Bridge, it's a suspension, not a suspension, but it's a drawbridge. It raises up, right?
Yeah.
And the whole thing is only like 5 car lengths long from the beginning to the end of it. It's about 5 cars beyond the entire length of it. It's not a big bridge, but it went into overcosts and it was delayed.
It was like almost $200 million or something ridiculous.
Absolute cluster, and it was just horrible. And it was a landmark in Victoria, and everybody loved it. But it was getting dated, And so somebody in their infinite wisdom said, well, we got to update it. I don't know why exactly, but update it they did. But it was just a colossal waste of money. It was a disaster, really.
Well, and I think the mayor who presided over that was Lisa Helps, who everyone jokingly called Moonbeam.
She's a hippie kind of girl.
She was another woke disaster who was probably the person that really led Victoria into becoming its progressive hellscape that it's become today. And David Eby, they're all buddies, and they have this love affair for China, which says to me, allies to what Sam Cooper's research has been all along, that we have some very significant people who are making decisions who are compromised as Chinese assets. And I think the faster CSIS gets that stuff out there. I know the Liberal Party does not want that out in Canada because there's too many of them are exposed. And I even think the uniparty aspect, I think there's kind of on both sides. I think there's been exposure, and I think maybe that's why it hasn't been released, because there should be enough pressure from opposition parties because they are a majority together, but they're not allowing it to come out. No, let it come out, and let's get these people on trial as traitors, because that's who they are. But I think David Eby would be one of those guys that would be captured in that sweep, and he would need to resign. But yeah, he's Canada's West Coast commie that we need to dump fast.
Yeah, it's difficult in here because democracy is further removed every time you get a minority government. No confidence vote goes in. They get out. You get these minority alliances. So right now it's the Greens and the NDP propping each other up. The Liberal Party. It's very confusing, Canadian politics, provincial vis-a-vis the government, federal level. But I see we got 3 minutes to go. Let's close out on kind of a fun note. This is hilarious. Elbow stuck. Carney praises Donald Trump, the man he was supposed to deal with. Let's take a look and see how Carney puts it to Trump.
Nostalgia isn't a strategy. We have to change with the times and to build a better world. And some of you, such as you, Mr. President, have anticipated these massive changes and are taking bold measures to address them. All of us around this table are reinforcing our militaries and security services for the new world. But we all know that there can be no security without economic prosperity and no prosperity without resilience. And in a world where shocks flow across the borders, that resilience comes from cooperation around that starts around defense. Nostalgia.
All right, so he's just loving.
You know, his elbows are jello.
You know, your tremendous leadership has taken the charge on this, Mr. President. I mean, it's just kind of crazy.
Well, did you see that he left early? He was supposed to be there, the G7, for 3 days.
Yeah.
And he bailed after 1 day.
Yeah.
Trump left. He said, "Nope, I've got what I need."
I think, he made a deal with the UK, which is strongly in the U.S. favor. If you read the details of it, I mean, it's hilarious. Trump wins again. He is working. These tariffs are working. Canada, meanwhile, is still dicking around a little bit. And Trump says certain tariffs may still be on. So there's still uncertainty with Canada and the U.S., but that's the way it goes.
I do protest that the EU is sitting at that table. The EU is not a country. They are not a G7 country. You have a German leader. You have France. You have Great Britain.
Well, wasn't
Italy
there? Yeah.
What's that? Oh, no, those guys all can show up and meet in the hobnob rooms, but they are not supposed to be at the table. G7 does not include the EU. Get the hell out of there. I don't know why Carney brought them in there. I know he's all buddy with them.
Yeah. They should represent France or Lithuania or whatever the hell.
G7 countries, not economic union.
Then France, Germany, Italy would be represented there. Blake, I want to thank you again for great content and contributing to this stuff. Some very insightful observations that you put out today, particularly when you were talking about the situation with Iran. And kind of the underscoring messaging that's been going on there. If you go back and watch it, Blake kind of put a really interesting analysis on that. I thought it was very good. All right, folks, we'll be back tomorrow, but we're going to be here at 3:00 Pacific tomorrow afternoon for another episode of what the hell are we calling this thing? Ghost Town.
Political Nooner. Yeah, Political Nooner. But tomorrow it's the afternoon marathon.
Yeah, we just extended maybe like 90 minutes sort of thing. We go on about 90 minutes, sometimes 2 hours, but about 90 minutes. Everybody, thank you so much. Thumbs up, subscribe. We're happy. You're happy. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Frank.